Was hunting leopard, and we would start very early in the morning. It would still be dark, and we'd go out in 2 trucks, and we would be looking for tracks that would be in the road because it was so thick you couldn't walk in the bushes. It was just so thick. You had to look on the road, and on the road, which was clay, stones, and dirt, you would sometimes see tracks of all the animals that were walking on the road. And we were looking and looking and looking, and we didn't see any leopard. And we did it twice a day, in the evening and in the morning, and we never saw any tracks of leopard. So a neighbor said, "You better come to my place because I've got cattle, and somebody is eating my cattle. And I think it's a great big leopard." And so we said, okay, we'll come over tomorrow morning. And so we went over there, and we had 2 trucks, and we were looking for the tracks and looking for the tracks, and all of a sudden, the guys in the other truck started shouting, and they were talking in African, so I couldn't understand what they were saying. But all of a sudden, our driver put on the brakes, and he stopped the truck, and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, the guys in the other truck saw the track of a real big leopard." So we went, "Whoa, let's go over and look at that track." So we went over and we looked at the track, and the track was about that big. And we're looking at the track, and we're looking at the track, and we're going, "Where do you think that leopard is now?" And so we let a couple of dogs out, and they started looking over, away from the cattle, and then all of a sudden, I heard on the side that we were on, where the cattle were, I heard a dog bark. And then all of a sudden sounded like it got hit by a car. It started crying, "Yip, yip, 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 yip," and then it was quiet. I go, "What was that?" The guys went over this way to look at the leopard, and now all of a sudden I'm hearing noise over here. So all of a sudden the radio in the truck starts cackling again, and now they're talking in African again, and they're very excited. And I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Well, our chief tracker," I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, the chief tracker took his dog and went back over where the cattle are, and he was tracking the leopard, and all of a sudden he looked in the tree, and the leopard was in the tree. And all of a sudden he started running back to the road, and the leopard jumped out of the tree and started chasing him. And his dog ran in front of the leopard, between the master and the leopard took the dog and bit the dog, and that was the noise that we heard. And he shook the dog, threw it on the ground, and then he ran in the bushes. So I'm looking down the road, and here comes my friend, the tracker, holding his dog, running back to us at the truck.
Was the dog bleeding? Yeah.
The dog wasn't bleeding, but the dog was still alive, but his eyes were kind of closed, and he was very still. And there was some big marks, like on his neck. Okay? So we made a little blanket in the back and put the dog on the little blanket, and then the tracker picked up the back of the truck, and all the rest of the dogs took off, and they were on that leopard in seconds. You could hear the roaring. You could hear the leopard roaring, the dogs were barking, everybody was going crazy, they were running around, and so I got my gun, and we start chasing into the woods. And all of a sudden we see all of this dust coming up and flying around in the bushes. I can see a dog, and I can see spots of a leopard, and but I don't see anything to shoot at. I don't want to shoot at a dog. And so I'm looking, and all of a sudden the sound moves to another spot, and we went to like 4 different spots before all of a sudden I'm looking in my scope. You know, my gun has like a telescope on it. You know, I'm looking in my scope, and all of a sudden, here comes the leopard. He's running right at us as fast as he can. He's running, charging us, and so I shot, and right about where Parker was, he got that close, and all of a sudden he just spun up in the air, and he fell down right here, and he was dead. He almost got us. very, very close. So everybody was so quiet when that happened. Everybody just, nobody said a word. All the dogs settled down and everybody, then all of a sudden, all those trackers, they come up to me and they're yelling and they're jumping and they're picking me up, and they're jumping and they're patting me on the back and you said, "You shot the leopard." And that's the story of the leopard. So now, that leopard, we took him and it was a very big leopard, and he lives now in my house up on a mantle, and he's just sitting kind of on a log, and he's just kind of smiling. He's just looking. I think he's happy that he's there.